But boy, I tell you, it's been a tough morning here. I had a horrible night's sleep because I stayed up too late eating super hot atomic tactical nuke grade chicken wings at the pub. But well, it wasn't my fault. It was Vladimir Putin's. Then I slept too late because I'd forgotten to activate the alarm on my phone. And again, wasn't my fault. Nope. It was the fault of that damned Vladimir Putin again. And on the way to the studio to broadcast this show, I had to stop and sell a kidney to be able to pay to fill up my car. That's how expensive it was. All thanks, of course, to Vladimir Putin. And now, with petrol prices in the U.S. surging to as high as $6 or more in some parts of America, and Australians feeling the pinch too, as prices punch through $2 a liter, Joe Biden knows exactly who to blame.
I'm going to do everything I can to minimize Putin's price hike here at home.
Yes, that's right. Vladimir Putin. White House spokesman Jen Psaki was keen to break all this down for the American voter, because if there's anything people like more than being talked to by an increasingly senile commander-in-chief, it is being talked down to like a kindergartner.
The reality is that Russia is one of the 3 largest oil producers in the world. And the fact that they have started this conflict, invaded a foreign country, and they are such a big producer of oil in the world is the reason why the global oil markets are disturbed right now and why your gas prices are going up. The president's going to do everything he can to bring down the price of gas for the American people. But there are a few facts you should be aware of. U.S. production of oil and gas is rising, but part of this is on the oil companies. Right now, there are 9,000 approved unused permits that oil and gas companies could tap into now to ramp up production. So what the president is doing is ensuring we're taking steps here to get more oil out into the global marketplace.
It's a point that Biden himself was again keen to make this week.
It's simply not true that my administration or policies are holding back domestic energy production. That's simply not true.
Sorry, what? Let's hear that again.
It's simply not true that my administration or policies are holding back domestic energy production. That's simply not true.
Yeah, pull the other one, Mr. President. It plays jingle bells. The fact is that this president campaigned on the promise of running down oil production. Before he was even elected by 81 million of his fellow Americans, he was saying that he was going to end subsidies for fossil fuels and, quote, ban new drilling on federal lands. One of President Biden's very first acts of office was to revoke permits for the Keystone Pipeline, which would have brought oil from the petroleum-rich Canadian province of Alberta to be refined in Texas. And it's not true for Biden or his handlers to claim that they have been doing everything they can to expand drilling when just 2 weeks ago they paused new oil and gas leases. Before the current world crisis, it was an article of faith that this was a good idea, a good thing. And so-called experts, where would we be without experts, were claiming that America had enough oil under production to meet domestic needs. Of course, because these people are morons, and sorry, there is no other word for it, they don't get that cutting production of an exchangeable commodity causes prices to rise everywhere, including at home. Which is why the U.S. is now going cap in hand, begging such staunch and stalwart allies as Venezuela and Iran, as well as Kennebunkport Country Club honorary members, the Saudi royal family, to up production. How's that fight for freedom going, Mr. President? Not particularly well, it would seem. Because the fact of the matter is that signals matter. Joe Biden's entire presidency has been obsessed with finishing the job Barack Obama started, and which Donald Trump put a blissful 4-year halt to, of destroying America's energy independence. If Joe Biden or whomever is running the show at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue really wanted to help Americans and hurt Vladimir Putin, a man who, let's be frank, represents a far greater existential threat to the world than climate change, then he would make a serious move to restart oil production, unplug the roadblocks to the Keystone Pipeline, and stop begging Russian allied dictatorships to give him the oil he has now banned coming in from Russia. Of course he won't, because for the Biden administration, higher prices are all part of the plan. Just listen to Vice President Kamala Harris talking about the push for electric vehicles, which an EPA official this week said were, quote, really pressing the accelerator down, unquote, on getting on with now that they've got higher gas prices.
Imagine a future, the freight trucks that deliver bread and milk to our grocery store shelves, and the buses that take children to school and parents to work. Imagine all the heavy-duty vehicles that keep our supply lines strong and allow our economy to grow. Imagine that they produced zero emissions.
Oh, yeah, we don't have to imagine it. We're living it all right. Now, first, let me say that Vladimir Putin's reputation around the world is so low that he could give bouquets of flowers to a room full of young women and it would still look like he had just run over their puppies. So it is no surprise that Joe Biden's first port of call when he went looking for someone to blame for the appallingly high gas prices in the U.S. was, indeed, the gremlin in the Kremlin.
Putin's war is already hurting American families at the gas pump. Since Putin began his military buildup on Ukrainian borders, just since then, the price of the gas at the pump in America went up 75 cents.
How much was that, Mr. President? 75 cents? Well, as this graph shows, gas prices hit a 5-year low of $1.87 during Donald Trump's final year in office and have been rising steadily from $2.20 a gallon when Biden won the election in November 2020 to $4.20 today, although much higher in many parts of the country, a trend that analysts will say will continue for the foreseeable future. We have got a Princeton professor, Princeton University, one of the top Ivy League colleges in the United States, saying that America is not only an irredeemably racist nation, but one that must be refounded. Have a look at this.
At every turn, when America seems as if it's on the precipice of being otherwise, it doubles down on its ugliness. At every moment when a new America seems to be about to be born, the umbilical cord of white supremacy is wrapped around the baby's neck, choking the life out of it.
So let me get this straight here, Professor. You've got, let's see. So the United States ended slavery and fought a civil war to end slavery. It had the whole civil rights movement to end segregation. It elected an African-American president, but apparently it's still irredeemably racist. Now, the point about this is, of course, that this is where the elite is trained up in America. Princeton. And the elite is trained up now to hate America. Yeah. The whole great game, the whole conflict that is being set up now, it's not just about military and territory, it's about energy and food. Absolutely. And the West has deliberately weakened itself with green ideology for the past 20, 30 years since the Cold War. And, you have to say that the Greta Thunbergs of the world are just as responsible for this conflict as anybody else. Well, this is a hyper bowl of salad with a Russian dressing.
Nice.
I think you mean
Ukrainian dressing. Ukrainian dressing. By the way, how silly is all of that? Honestly. Anyway, New York Democrats, back from the old hometown, they've equated climate change to 9/11. Have a look at this really good taste effort by these guys.
And they say we don't need it by 2050. As this one says, climate change. Wake up, America. 2050 is too late.
Oh, dear.
And now you can see that there. They've got this banner with a jet plane marked climate change flying in to the World Trade Center.
Joking.
Really, really classy there. 3,000 people died there 20 years ago. And they're saying, oh, yeah, climate change. This is the same sort of threat as, a radical Islamic terrorist group that wants to bring down the West. The phrase "okay boomer" before on this show, but maybe we should be talking about "okay groomer" because this bill was all about making sure that kids from year 3 and below aren't exposed to sexualizing, inappropriate sex education things. Now, the words "don't say gay" aren't anywhere near the bill.
Well,
but what happened was,
just quickly, the actual bill, so people know, the actual bill is called the Parental Rights in Education Bill, and the bill specifically targets young kids, kindergarten-aged kids, and says that they cannot be educated in sexual activities without their parental knowledge.
What this turned into was this whole thing where they said, oh, well, you're not allowed to even say the word gay around kids. And so, you know, you had this whole thing where everybody's screaming gay, gay, gay. And you had Mark Hamill tweeted this ridiculous thing. I don't know if we've got the tweet.
Yeah, it's there. Gay, Mark Hamill.
You know, so
that's clever.
So it's real clever,
Mark?
really. But of course, parents are furious about this. Now, the really interesting thing about this is that Disney, which is a huge employer, they've got the theme park in Florida, said, well, you know, we don't want you to pass this bill, Ron DeSantis. He said, no, I'm standing up for parents' rights. And he has been very, very strong on saying, I am on the side of parents and not woke corporations. If there's one good thing that the White House is saying right now, it is that we are not going to get involved with enforcing a no-fly zone over Ukraine, which would lead to complete conflict with Russia and, you know, a potential real sort of World War III situation. But I think what this whole TikTok thing shows is how deeply unserious, not just the White House in every other way, and much of the West is about this. I mean, let's think about this. We are now in this situation where Russia invades Ukraine, and we have seen over the past 2 weeks so many insane things, from, you know, Russian sopranos and conductors being canceled from philharmonics. We've seen Russian cats canceled from cat shows and whatever. We've seen meerkats canceled. We have now seen, you know, Woolworths is now calling chicken Kiev chicken Kyiv, because when we say Kiev, we're somehow supporting Putin. And what we're seeing is this weird, funny sort of reprise of the COVID hysteria on the international stage, where we've got all of these people, reporters, journalists, everybody pumping for more and more. Why are we doing more? Why haven't we nuked Moscow yet? Why haven't we done this? Why haven't we done that? And it reminds me so much of during COVID, when there was this complete push to go to the most maximalist position. I think the White House gets a bit of credit for not going there,